The days and times that people work affect the duration of your project schedule. Sure, you could get a 7-day, 12-hour per day working calendar to try to finish a project quickly, but people won't work at that grueling pace for long, and they'll quickly become less productive. If you have teams in different parts of the world, what's considered a standard work week can differ significantly. In Project, you define calendars to specify the days and times that people work and the days and times that they don't. Project's calendar options tell the program how to convert durations into hours of work. To keep calculations accurate, you have to tell Project the typical work hours for a week and month for your organization's typical work schedule. To create or edit calendars, on the Project tab, click Change Working Time. In the Change Working Time dialog box, the For Calendar box shows the calendar assigned to the project and shows that by adding the words Project Calendar after the calendar name. A calendar identifies a set of working and non-working days and times. You can assign a calendar to a project to specify the work times for the entire project, like your organization's standard work days, the official start and end of the workday, lunchtime, and official holidays. You can define additional calendars for projects that follow a different schedule, like construction on an interstate highway bridge that runs from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. to minimize traffic jams. The easiest way to define your organization's working and non-working times is by editing the built-in standard calendar. However, if you want to create a new calendar, click Create New Calendar. In the Create New Base Calendar dialog box, type the name for the calendar, such as Long Week. If you select the Create New Base Calendar option, you have to define every aspect of the calendar, so it's usually quicker to copy one of the built-in calendars. To copy an existing calendar, leave the Make a Copy of option selected. Then in the drop-down list, choose the calendar you want to copy, but in this case, Standard is fine. Then click OK to save the new calendar. To edit a calendar, select it in the For Calendar drop-down list, as it's shown here. If you've set up calendars for resources, they'll appear at the end of this list. The Change Working Time dialog box has two tabs for the two approaches to defining working and non-working days and times. Work weeks are named just that because they represent the work schedules you usually follow week after week. A work week identifies the working and non-working days of the week and the work hours for each work day. You can set up more than one work week if you work different schedules at different times of the year, for example, a shorter summer work week. Or you can define an alternate work week for a specific resource who is working fewer hours. You can't create a work week and apply it to different time periods. Each time period with a special work schedule needs its own work week. The default work week sets weekdays as work days and weekends as non-work days. You can see here that Monday through Friday all have work hours, and Sunday and Saturday are non-working days. The start and end work times come from the hours you specify in Project Calendar options, which you'll learn about shortly. The start and finish cells are filled in with NA, which means that the work week applies to all dates. To set up a new work week, click the first blank name cell and type a name. Long hours, for example. In the start cell, choose the first date that the work week applies. Say October 1st. In the finish cell, choose the last date. Let's say that's December 31st. The next step is to set up the work days and times. With the work week selected in the table, click Details. The dialog box has the heading Details for Long Hours to show that you are setting the working and non-working schedule for the long hours work week. You can select days in several ways. You can click a single day. You could drag over several days like Monday through Friday, or you can control-click non-adjacent days like Sunday and Saturday. If you select working days, say Monday and Tuesday, the work hours appear in the table. If you want to change a work day to a non-working day, select the Set Days to Non-Working Time option. On the other hand, if you want to change the work hours for a work day, or to change a non-work day to a work day, select the Set Days to These Specific Working Times option. Now that we've selected this option, we can actually edit the work days for Monday and Tuesday. To change the work hours in an existing entry, you click the cell and then type the new time. Project selects the entire cell contents, so you just start typing the new time. Click the last to cell and type 7 p.m. Actually, if you type a number from 7 to 11 without typing anything else, Project automatically adds AM to the time. Project adds PM to the numbers 12 and the numbers from 1 to 6. Project doesn't like overlapping times in different rows. If one row has work times of 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. and 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. in another row, the program complains when you click OK to close the dialog box. You have to get back into the Details dialog box by clicking OK in the warning message and just edit the times to get them right. To add a new row, click the first blank From cell and type a starting time. If you want to remove a row, drag across both the From and To cells and then press Delete. To set times for other days, you can select those days and edit the times. And when you're ready, you can click OK to close the dialog box. I'm going to put in this starting time again so our work schedule is correct. You use exceptions mostly for non-working time, but some working time can fit into the exception mold. Company holidays are a good example of exceptions. You name each one, like Thanksgiving Day, and choose the date range. If an exception lasts longer than a week, every day has to either be non-working time or use the same work hours. For this reason, an exception can work for a factory shutdown or for a multi-day training class. You can also set up recurring exceptions to set aside the last day of every quarter for an all-hands meeting. To create an exception, click the Exceptions tab and then click the first blank name cell and type a name for the exception, like Company Meeting. In the Start cell, choose the first date for the exception, say September 17th. In the Finish cell, choose the last date. Then click Details. The Details For dialog box shows the exception name, Company Meeting in this example. Because exceptions are often non-working time, Project automatically selects the non-working option. If the exception is for a few days of different work times, select the Working Times option and fill in the Working Times calendar. If an exception occurs on a regular schedule, you can set up a recurrence pattern. For the quarterly meeting, select the monthly option. You can choose a specific date in the month or a day like the second Friday. Because it is a quarterly meeting, type 3 in the months box. The options you can choose vary based on whether the recurrence is daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly. The range of recurrence tells Project how long the exception repeats. You can end it after a number of occurrences or by a specific date. In this example, type 8 in the Occurrences box to run the meeting for 2 years. Click OK to save the exception. Back in the Change Working Time dialog box, you can also assign a calendar to an individual or a group of resources to schedule around vacations, a half-time work schedule, or other non-standard working times. You can even assign a calendar to a task, for instance, to schedule a banking system cutover to run around the clock over the weekend to minimize service interruptions. When you finish working on calendars, click OK to close the Change Working Time dialog box. You can copy calendars using the organizer. That way you can use them in other projects. Or you can copy a calendar into the project global template to share that calendar with all new projects. You'll learn how to use Organizer in a later movie. You have to match a project's calendar options to its calendar working time to tell Project how to convert durations for working times into hours of work. To do that, on the File tab, click Options. Then click Schedule. The label Calendar Options for this project tells you that the calendar options apply to the project shown in the box. When more than one project is open, you can choose a different project name to assign calendar options to a different project. To adjust calendar options for all new projects, that means not existing ones, in the drop-down list, choose All New Projects. Project's default calendar options are perfect for your typical 40-hour work week. Hours per day is set to 8, and hours per week is set to 40. The hours per day sets the number of work hours for a single workday. So in this case, 8 hours of work. If you use longer or shorter work days, type the number of work hours in this box. And hours per week defines the number of work hours in 1 week. So 5 8-hour days is 40 work hours. Days per month converts between days and months and is set to 20 work days. That's basically for 4 weeks, each with 5 work days. The hours per day, hours per week options have to match your work calendar if you want project's calculations to be correct. Say hours per day is 6 hours. For a task with a 2-day duration, project multiplies the 2 days by 6 hours per day to get 12 work hours. And if someone is assigned to the task at 100% and works 8-hour days according to the project calendar, that's a total of 16 work hours. You'll see different work hours depending on whether you set the task duration in hours or days. But if you keep your calendar and calendar options in sync, the issue never arises. The week starts on is set initially to Sunday, which is fine. If your corporate time tracking system, however, starts on Monday, change this setting so that both programs start on the same day of the week. Fiscal year starts in is important only if your corporate fiscal year starts in a month other than January and you want to produce fiscal period reports in project. For most tasks, the start time is based on when the predecessor tasks finish. Choose a time in the default start time box for tasks that don't have predecessors. If you start your days earlier or later, change the time in this box. Default end time is for tasks in which you specify a task's finish date without specifying a finish time, and it's set to 5 p.m. initially. If your workday ends earlier or later, change the time in this box. Calendars tell project about the working and non-working times for the entire project for specific resources and in some cases, specific tasks. And they're one of the keys to how long tasks take and how long resources work.